Welcome back. You're watching Beyond Markets. Now, South Africa's first innovation index is currently being launched. Accenture will be benchmarking the findings of this index on a year-on-year basis to evaluate how innovative South Africa is at corporate and government level. Earlier, I spoke to Nicky Holmes. She's a director at Accenture to explain the need for an innovation index within the South African context.
Globally, innovation has been recognized as a key enabler of growth and sustainable competitiveness. And I think specifically in South Africa, where we've got many challenges, really get to the heart of what innovation looks like. And the status quo of innovation from a national level is very important. So our index will specifically look at what the state of innovation is like in South Africa as a whole. We'll also be looking at what innovation looks like within organizations themselves. We also look at it at the industry level, and we're looking at innovative concepts. So I think it's going to be an opportunity to really develop an objective and authoritative snapshot of innovation in this country, which will hopefully lend practical opportunities to really address where we've got strengths, where we've got weaknesses, and opportunities to really leverage innovation as an enabler of growth.
Nicky, I understand the way the index is going to work is that you need companies, obviously, to register themselves on the index, and it's a kind of a voluntary arrangement. How sure are you that South African companies will, in part of such an index, what is the incentive for them to, form part of this initiative?
I think we did a bit of groundwork, so we've obviously chatted to our clients to understand whether there was an appetite for this type of index. We've engaged with various government stakeholders to, again, also understand what their appetite was, because I think it's only through bringing together those two audiences that this really will become valuable to the country itself. I think we feel comfortable that organizations will see the benefit in terms of how we will take the index to them. They will have an opportunity to see how they rank against their peers. They will also have an opportunity to see how they can practically impact innovation in their own businesses. So we believe the country is ready for it. As I say, we have engaged with a number of stakeholders to make sure that we believe that people will participate and support us in achieving this.
Now, of course, innovation is a very nebulous term. Many things can be innovative and described as such. What is the criteria that you set? How do you define innovation? And, of course, is there a one-size-fits-all definition across such diverse sectors as we have in the South African economy, for example?
I think just in terms of innovation, I think creativity is good, but creativity without execution is, it doesn't actually change the way we want to change the way the world lives and works, and that is fundamental to our definition of how we look at innovation. So I think whether it's a small, medium-sized enterprise or a large enterprise, there are basic fundamentals which would apply across the board. So we've looked at what innovation looks like within organizations on a number of levels. We've looked at the social and people systems. We've looked at things like product development, how do they take things to market. We've looked at market and brand development. We've looked at service delivery for certain sectors. And all that is built into the sort of framework of the index itself. So we feel that it allows for different nuances between industries as well as for different nuances between different sized organizations.
Let's take, for example, the question of service delivery. We know that is a big challenge in South Africa. How would innovation at, let's say, local government level work to fast-track more efficient services and in fact, keep municipalities, financially stable? Because that is the big challenge there. There's often a money crunch, and there's often an absence of systems, for example. How does innovation come in there and assist a municipality in doing better?
I mean, I think it would obviously be on a case-by-case basis, but it would obviously be leveraging things that people had done in the past. So I think by us unearthing some of the innovation which probably already exists in many of our government departments, that will allow us to basically apply positive learning sort of spirals to organizations like municipalities where they may be challenged by financial, by lack of systems. So I think what innovation does is it fast-tracks progress because, again, you're leveraging off what people have done before and what they have done well. So I think it's just applying a different mindset to how we address things like service delivery challenges.
Now, of course, in corporate environments, people also have systems, and there's often a bureaucracy that goes with it. And innovation, in a way, is a different way of looking at things, often slashing bureaucracy. How do you introduce innovation into a company without necessarily destroying systems and allowing for creativity, but getting people to also accept that, there needs to be consistency, that you need to do things in a way that doesn't disrupt the running, let's say, of a company?
I think innovation should be treated as a critical business process. I think that's how one does it. I think it doesn't necessarily need to be disruptive. It doesn't necessarily need to. It doesn't need to be counter to what exists. It needs to be embedded in the culture of an organization. And that's why when we've looked at the index, we've looked at all those various different categories. So it's not just one pocket. It actually expands throughout the organization.
Give us these sectors that you're talking about. How will you define the index? What is it exactly that you'll be looking at?
So we will be looking at, we're obviously using organizational information to help drive data against the various categories that we'll be measuring. So the categories that I mentioned to you, which were the social and people innovation. So that would be things like, how do you remunerate innovators? How do you retain innovators as well? We would be looking at, as I said, product development, the brand development. So how do you get your brand out there? How does it resonate with your consumers at the end of the day? How do you deliver services most effectively and efficiently? How do you leverage technology, tools like collaborative tools to get people involved? So we would be typically looking at how people performed in those areas, and then assigning a scoring of sorts to that. And then we would roll that up to look at what innovation looked like for South Africa as a whole, and also industries, whether there were specific industry nuances. You may find that in financial services, for instance, they might be very strong on the social side, but perhaps they haven't looked at the technology side. I mean, that's just probably not the case, but that would be an example. So we expect to find some quite interesting information. We are also looking at innovative concepts, so which would be sector based on sector. So that would be really your ground roots innovation. And you may find that organizations which have fantastic systems of innovation may at this moment in time not perform necessarily from an innovative concept perspective. So I think we're going to find some quite interesting findings coming out.
To Cape Town.